Hello, I'm Marcus Boston. Today's video, we're going to talk about genetics and HIE from a medical legal standpoint. Now, before I get to that, I want to help you understand a foundation, something that you've got to understand with these types of cases if you're thinking about bringing a birth trauma case. And a lot of times this is stemming from parents that want an investigation done, or they have questions as to what was the cause of their child's HIE diagnosis. For some parents, that's not really a big deal to them, but for other parents, it is a concern. They do want to know, okay, how did this happen? And so what we're learning is that in a lot of cases now, more and more families are telling us that, okay, the doctors and the nurses, they're talking about this genetics. They're talking about genetics, that the cause could have been genetic related, or and even in some other cases, they'll say that it was something on the developmental side. And I would like to talk with you about why these things from a medical legal standpoint, or when you're bringing a claim, why these things can be beneficial for doctors and hospitals. Now, in some cases we have initially the family will be told, like I said, it was genetic. And then we get in and we do an investigation and we find, okay, wait a minute, this was not genetic. This was something else. And this is important because one of the elements that you have to prove if you're bringing a birth trauma case, an HIE diagnosis, or you're saying that your child's brain injury was something that the doctors or the nurses did, when you're bringing cases like this, you, the person bringing the case, or your attorney on your behalf, we are responsible for proving what we call causation. In other words, we have to show that the cause of the injury, that cause is something that the doctors and the nurses, that they failed to do. That was the cause of the injury. If there's something else that causes the injury, then we cannot prove that the causation was because of something that the defendants did. And that is really important. And so that genetics aspect of things, that's where you can see genetics showing up, because the defense a lot of times will be, well, no, it was not anything that we did. It was genetics, or it was developmental, or it was something else that was the cause. It had nothing to do with the doctors or the nurses. And that's why I was talking about earlier that element of causation. And so in a lot of these cases, we will do an investigation on the front end to either confirm, was it developmental, was it something else, or was it something that the doctors and the nurses, that they failed to do? Was your baby in fetal distress and they failed to identify that fetal distress? They failed to diagnose it, and because they failed to diagnose it, they failed to treat it. And with the failure to treat fetal distress, if it goes on for too long, your baby can, in some instances, suffer a brain injury. And this can be because of a reduced level of blood and oxygen, which can lead to a brain injury. Hence that term HIE, or hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. All right, so that is the purpose of today's video, is to help you understand from a medical legal standpoint that genetic or that developmental aspect of these HIE cases. And sometimes it was not developmental, it was not genetic. What it was is the baby was in fetal distress. That distress was not properly diagnosed. Because it wasn't properly diagnosed, it wasn't properly treated. Maybe there was an emergency C-section that should have been done. It was warranted in this particular case, and it was not done. So that is the point of today's video. If you have more questions, if you would like to speak with me about a possible investigation as to what caused your baby's HIE diagnosis, or maybe you have a subsequent CP or cerebral palsy diagnosis and you have questions about this, what I invite you to do, there is a telephone number on the screen. Go ahead and pick up your phone and give me a call. As you can see, I talk with families all the time about this. This is what we do. We help families in regards to HIE and CP and some of these other birth-related issues. That's what we do. Now, before I leave, I want to make sure that you understand that I practice law here in the state of Maryland. If you are not in Maryland, because this video is on the internet, if you're not in Maryland, just remember, if you contact me, that I have to use local counsel or co-counsel, an attorney in your state, to move the cases forward, or move the case forward if we feel that this is something that we can assist you with. So I just want to make sure that you understand the local counsel aspect of things. All right, again, I'm Marcus Boston, and I'm one of the childbirth, injury, and medical malpractice attorneys practicing law here in the state of Maryland at Boston Law Group, LLC. We will see you next time. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.